Welcome to Ink Outside the Box. I'm Robin.
And I'm Chaz, and today we're going to talk about cliches. We're going to discuss why writers should avoid using them. We're going to take a look at some overused sayings and different ways you can look at them and change them out in your own writing. And we're even going to do a cheeky little writing exercise at the end.
That sounds like fun. Really well-known cliches are stuff like time heals all wounds or better late than never and actions speak louder than words. But what we're going to talk about today is more in the line of literary cliches. Obviously, people will use those types of cliches that I talked about earlier. Cliches that you'll see used over and over again, some that you might see in maybe inexperienced writers' works and things like that. But what we're going to do today is we're going to break them down and help you kind of look at them in a different way. So I thought what we talk about is why we want to avoid cliches. What would be a couple of reasons why you would want to avoid a cliche, Chaz?
Well, lack of originality
Yeah.
is probably the top one. Cliches are overused. They've lost their freshness. And when a writer uses them, it can make their work feel sort of predictable, maybe lazy, a little uninventive. Readers enjoy something new, and also when we say things a lot, they lose meaning. I mean, for example, there's an old phrase, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yeah.
And people these days tend to say the proof's in the pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Now, actually, the proof's in the pudding doesn't really make as much sense as the original, but I think we as a species have stopped remembering what that phrase is about. So it's saying the proof of the pudding is in the eating. When you eat the pudding, you'll know if it's a good pudding.
Mm-hmm.
So saying the proof's in the pudding, it does kind of work, but I think a lot of it is laziness because we've forgotten what it means. And when we use cliches in our writing, like if I said something in a piece I wrote recently, I said someone was a slip of a thing, and looking back, it's like, no, I don't want to leave that in there. It's a cliche to describe as a small woman,
Mm-hmm.
and a slip of a thing, it doesn't describe her.
Yeah.
It's just a throwaway phrase. And there's so much more I could have done in that tiny sentence to just make it more original and make you think about what she looks like,
Yeah,
as
because your
opposed to,
idea of a slip of a thing will be different than anybody else's. And if you really want
there is
people
that as
to
well. Yeah,
know what you are trying to convey to your reader about what she looks like, then you have to give some more descriptors than just she's a slip of a thing. I also find that
exactly.
using cliches can also undermine your character voice, your narrator voice, and their style, because if you're trying to create your own style, then if you're using cliches, you're using Shakespeare's words, you're using other authors' words, you're using great grandma's words, and it's not yours. Make
Yeah,
things original so people will recognize it as you, not as a knockoff Shakespeare, for instance. And
yeah,
also,
absolutely.
I find that unoriginality or inoriginality, which one is it? When you're not original, let's go with that one.
Yeah, when you're not original. if
When
only
you're
we
not
had some
original,
if only we had some English graduates to be able to help us with these words, Robin.
when you're not original, you are risking your reader disengaging because, like you were mentioning with proof in the pudding, people kind of have got to the point where they know what that means. So they don't even if you had the proof in the pudding is in the eating, they wouldn't read the rest of that sentence because they already know it.
Probably.
So
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
getting them to skip parts of what you're writing. And you're
absolutely. Yeah.
also missing an opportunity for a deeper meaning. Okay, I don't want to describe every freckle on a character's face, but I want to make it sound like I'm describing a particular person and not everybody on earth with freckles. You see what I mean?
Yes. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that that's really important. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, let's see, I've counted one, two, three, four, five. We're going to take six phrases that are kind of literary cliches. And last week we talked about tropes. This is very closely related. They are interchangeable in some ways, but we're going to take those six different literary cliches. And of course, you'll know of others yourself, but we're going to break them down and try to get you to look at them in a different way. It's almost like taking a machine when there's a problem with an engine and a mechanic takes it apart. He's looking for, or she's looking for, the problem inside the machine that's not working properly. And the only way that they can do that is to take it apart. And that's what we're going to do with these literary cliches. And I'm gonna mess up that word so bad at some point. I'm gonna trip all over that. I can feel it coming. So the first one we're gonna do is snow that sparkles like diamonds. So where would you think that that could go, Chaz? Where do you think that that would? What kind of story do you think that that would be in?
Well, I mean, it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be in a poem.
Mm-hmm.
It could be in a story. Yeah, it could be in a fantasy novel where it's
Mm-hmm.
winter. Basically, any story that's set when there's where and when there's snow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, snow that sparkles like diamonds. Like, I mean, actually, when you look at snow, it often does sparkle like diamonds.
Yeah, that's why it's
Um,
so you that's why it's used
which
so
is
much because it is
yeah,
it's kind of it is what it says on the tin kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
So we
But
don't want to lose our reader after snow that sparkles because they're going to go like diamonds all in unison. So how would you break that sentence down or that phrase down? So what's the object of
well, it,
of that phrase?
yeah. So that's what you've got to look at, isn't it? You've got
Mhm.
to say, what do I want to say about the snow? Is it the
Exactly.
light? Is it the atmosphere? And then ask yourself how you can rewrite the sentence better. And I mean, sometimes, look, somebody once said to me that the reason we use cliches is because they work,
Hmm.
you know, and they do, you know, of course they do. That's why people copy cliches and use them all the time.
Hmm.
But as a reader, one of the things I find very interesting is when somebody flips it, snow that sparkles like diamonds. You know, if you're talking about, for example, if your character is more of a working class hero,
Hmm.
maybe you could say they sparkle like rhinestones,
Hmm.
you know, because that's all they're used to having. You know, I don't have diamonds in my house because I'm not rich enough. Or you could say it sparkles like, you know, the candles on a church altar. You know, if you want
Hmm.
to show the light, for example, if you want to show the atmosphere, there's all sorts of other ways you could say it. But
Hmm.
like I say, I haven't prepared anything. This is straight off the top of my head, so I'm not coming up with genius ideas here. But you know, just thinking about how to change, how to put across the description you want in a different way.
The way that I would look at it is that you have your object and then you have your action.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
find another word for your object word, which would be snow, and find another action word, which is sparkles.
Sparkles.
So
Yeah.
forget about the diamonds. We're gonna talk about the snow. We might not be able to find another word for snow. We might use snowflakes instead. We might say twinkles instead of sparkles.
Yeah.
The sheen of the fallen snow was almost like glass or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
use metaphor, use similes, because that really pulls a visual image into that moment that you're trying to describe with that cliche. and get rid of the cliche. Think of it in a different way. So we'll go on to the next one. Silence is deafening. How often have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. And silence is deafening is one of those that you can use a little bit of synesthesia for. You
Yeah.
can switch out your senses. So
Mm-hmm.
rather than obviously silence and deafening both pertain to sound, both
Mm-hmm.
pertain to hearing. But your silence could be numbing, which is
Mm-hmm.
like bringing in the touch sense, or it could be blinding, or equally, you might want to change the word silence.
That's right.
um you might want to switch that out and use
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what I do an awful lot when I'm writing. I open up thesaurus.com, Google thesaurus.com, Merriam-Webster. All these dictionaries and thesauruses on the internet are so handy, and they're at your fingertips. If you're typing on a laptop, you will have a browser there as
Yeah.
well.
Word
No,
also
you're right.
has a thesaurus as well that you can use, and I use that sometimes. But if I can't find the right word, then I'll go to a bigger copy. So yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
Thesaurus is a writer's
and
best friend.
it really is. Thesaurus is on online thesauruses are fantastic. And what I actually do sometimes as well, because obviously, as you know, I write a lot of poetry, there's also rhyming dictionaries, and rhyme works really well in prose from time to time as well.
Yes.
Alliteration, rhyme repetition, things that you might think work better in poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you just add a touch of that to your prose, it can really make it pop.
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
and so yeah, so the other day I started writing a poem, and I opened up the rhyme dictionary. I just googled rhyme. It was about food, so I said rhymes with bread, and I ended up getting a primary school list of rhyming foods, which I ended up, the entire poem then became a lists of rhyming foods, because it fits so well with the exercise I had to do. So sometimes when I open up the thesaurus and say I want to say something sparkles, and then I go into the thesaurus and it gives me an alternative word for it. So it might say shine. And I
Yeah.
think actually it is more of a shine than a sparkle.
Yeah.
And then that actually makes me then look for another word for shine. And
Mhm.
and sometimes you can just refine the word you're using
Yeah, that's all
because
it
of what the
takes.
thesaurus throws at you. Yeah,
That's all it takes.
it's great.
With silence is deafening. And again, that's another situation where it is what it says on the tin, because if you've ever been in a place that there is absolutely no sound anywhere, you can almost feel the pressure pushing in on your ears.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you explain, that the lack of any kind of
Yeah.
noise made my head feel like somebody was pressing in on either side or something along those lines too.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like, so deafening silence is almost like the opposite of white noise, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can be in a crowd that's so loud, it's like bees buzzing, and you don't actually hear anything, even though there's noise everywhere. So,
Hmm.
and silence does deafen in the same way that noise can be quiet. You know
It
what I mean?
does.
So yeah, it's worth playing with those. It's worth
Yeah.
it. I think the key is exploring what the meaning is
Hmm.
that you're wanting to put across, and
That's
then
it.
just playing around with different things. It's easy to get it wrong sometimes.
It is. Sometimes the cliche
Yeah,
works and nothing else will work, and that's okay.
yeah.
But don't pack it full of cliches. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the video. I've got a really funny little exercise for you. But the next one is burning the candle at both ends.
So I looked
So,
at this and I was like, oh, bloody hell, how do you say you're burning the candle at both ends? So when you're burning the candle at both ends, you are, wearing yourself out, you're going to burn out, is what
yeah.
you're saying, isn't it? I think I would find something totally different for that
Yeah,
personally,
absolutely.
because I can't
And
think of anything clever.
I wouldn't try to use a thesaurus for that one. Why am I saying that this character's burning the candle at both ends? Are they trying to work and take care of kids and take care of a house and take care of a sick parent and also work on the car because it's broken and also fix the roof because it's leaking and that kind of thing? Explain why your character feels like they're burning the candle at both ends, because that's what that means. Burning a candle, you're going down a little bit at a time. Burning it at both ends, it's doubling it'll get rid of that
Yeah, yeah,
candle
that's it. Yeah.
a lot faster. So think about how that works and try to find a different way to say it. On the other end of that is I'm on cloud nine. And of course, again, you're saying that there's got to be some history to where that came from.
I've got a dictionary of phrase and fable that tells you where a lot of these sayings comes from.
Basically, you're saying you're trying to describe an emotion. So find another word for being happy or being ecstatic or being excited, feeling like you're on top of the world. Another cliche, but find a different way to explain your character's emotion and talk about the reason why they feel that way, or that they feel like their feet are, no, your feet don't touch the ground. That's another cliche.
No, I was just thinking that actually. This is another really good idea of how you can get how you can get around thinking of the emotion. So you're on cloud nine, you're on top of the world, you're like the cat that got the cream, you feel like your feet haven't touched the floor. There are so many metaphors for being happy.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many phrases, so many and that have become cliches.
Yeah.
So what you've got to do is explore and find something that says it better,
I think in
I
that
suppose.
particular instance, I might look for a simile. Like I felt like whatever,
Yeah.
I felt like there was nothing that could ruin the mood that I'm in. There's nothing that can take away that joy. Using a simile or another metaphor that's not a cliche that would describe that character's emotions would definitely push that forward.
And we all have different things that make us happy, because
Yeah.
I would probably describe it as a space hopper that wouldn't stop bouncing across the floor, because I love space hoppers,
See?
so that's it, isn't it? And especially if you know your characters well,
Yes.
what would make your character happy,
Hmm.
so the idea of being on cloud nine, the idea of being on a cloud isn't really that happy, is it? I mean,
No, I'd be
it's like
terrified.
all soggy up there. You get a bit of vertigo. you know
And you're gonna
a
fall.
bit dizzy, you're gonna fall, yeah, you might get hit by a plane or
Or
a
a
bird
bird.
strike. Yeah, so I mean, funny phrase to use at the best of times, but if you at the best of times is probably a cliche as well.
Of
But if
course it
you,
is.
if you explore how you can say that in your character's own personality or your character's own voice, that's gonna be a good idea, hasn't it?
Well, that's actually a really good point because that takes you back to our video about character. And we talked about making sure that you have a character list of things about your character. So things that are important to your character. Even if you never talk about it, you know what they are. And that actually goes back to that video about character because it discusses, you want to know all the little details about like what would be the first thing your character would do at a party.
Yeah, I might actually start adding that to my character list. So a metaphor for all of their moods. So
Yeah,
or a phrase for all of their moods as I'm writing the character list, and then
that's a
that
good
way I can
idea.
go. Then I'll be typing away, going, he was on cloud nine. Oh no, he wasn't. Where's
Oh
my
no.
character list? There we go. No, he was doing such and so. He was on a space hopper.
So the next one is open a can of worms or open Pandora's box. So again, you're
Yeah,
looking for the action word is open, and the object is the can of worms or Pandora's box. So obviously, you know that that means that somebody has started something. They have said something that's going to upset somebody else or start like a snowball effect that's going to just get bigger and bigger. They've done something. They may have uncovered information that they didn't really need to uncover. I can think of a certain set of files that is a big Pandora's box at the moment. So
yeah,
opening a can of worms, you just want to be able to convey that your character has started trouble that they really didn't want to get into, or they didn't realize how
yeah,
big it was going to be when the stuff hit the fan, if you know what I mean. Another
yeah.
cliche.
But such a visual delight.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So find another way, maybe even find an unrelated word to open that your reader knows what you're talking about without actually using the cliche.
Yeah,
Now,
I tell you what, I found very interesting, Robin, writing In Search of Strawberries. I had to find metaphors that would fit in a world where climate change has happened so dramatically for Aki to use. And
Hmm.
it was like, oh, I can't say that. I can't say that because, that there are no clouds, or, there is no
That's right.
rain, or
Yeah.
whatever. So all these little metaphors that I'm so used to using, and cliches I'm so used to using, I had to really think about because they are in a different place. So
That's that's
time.
it.
Yeah,
You definitely need to know your setting as well as your characters. So the last one
exactly.
we're going to talk about today is chokes the life out of me. A perfume or a situation or a person actually physically choking. So what is choking? What is actually causing the choking? So you need to figure that out first. And then find a metaphor or a simile to fix that using the sense words without using the actual like hear, see, smell, touch, taste, that kind of thing. And find a way, like the bile rose in my mouth as the fingers were clutching my neck or something along those lines, if it was a physical choking, or if it was a smell that was choking, then you find another way to say that.
Yeah, so rather than when you smell something particularly strong, it kind of gives you a almost a gag reflex, sometimes an actual gag reflex, sometimes a kind of choking reflex. And
Hmm.
that's what you want to get across, isn't it?
Yeah,
In that situation. So a thesaurus can really make you think of different routes to go down. When
absolutely.
because you see a
Absolutely.
word and think, oh, actually that fits it better. So yeah.
So the last thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to read out a paragraph. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it up on the screen, but I'm also going to put it down in the description. Find all of the cliches in this paragraph and then write something different. Make that paragraph different. Take those cliches out and mix it up. I'm going to read you the paragraph. What we're going to do next video, we'll talk about some of the answers that we got in that particular exercise in the comment section. If you guys put stuff in the comments, we would love for you to comment. And if you want to see the next
Yeah.
video, all you have to do is subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. And hit the bell icon that will tell you when we put our next videos out. And we put them out every Monday at 6 o'clock. So we would love for you to join us. We'd love for you to subscribe so we can grow our channel and do bigger and better things. In the comments, tell me how many cliches that you hear, and also how are you going to rewrite this. So at the end of the day, she knew it was sink or swim. Time heals all wounds, but right now she was caught between a rock and a hard place. The ball was in her court, and though the writing was on the wall, she decided to bite the bullet. After all, when life gives you lemons, you've got to make lemonade, even if it's bittersweet. Whew, I about choked on all those cliches.
No, you about gagged on all those cliches. No, that honestly, it would be so much fun for us to, because I know, look, people have come up to me and said that they've really been enjoying the videos that we've been putting out. If you have a go at this exercise, and you can copy and paste it out of the description, as Robin says, and have a go, even if it's ludicrous, like Mad Libs or one of these like silly games. It just, even if it's just funny or stupid, yeah, it would be so much fun to see what people come up with. In fact, actually, Robin, what I might do is I might have a go at it myself.
That is going to do it for this week. And I just want to remind you guys that all we want is for you to keep on writing.
Absolutely. Good luck.
See you next week.